Yeah, give him some.
He didn't make that. He just said Mike.
Remember where you hit your mics. Good evening. Welcome to City Council meeting for Tuesday, August the 24th. First item is just a reminder, we can join visually here in person, or you can do it virtually. Item number 2, closed executive session. 2A, closed executive session is authorized by Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with 551071, consultation with attorney. At this time, we're going to adjourn into Action on authorization of interlocal agreement by and between the city of Sugar Land and the city of Missouri City for processing and dispatching rerouted 911 calls from Missouri City. Shannon, our Director of Public Safety Dispatch.
And Mr. Mayor, this is a consent agenda item, so unless council has any questions.
Let's do it.
Make motion to approve.
Got a motion by Kamali, second by McCutcheon. Your vote this time, please. All right, passes 7-0. Then copy. Yeah, I saw that deer in the headlights.
I'm just here.
Please, no questions.
I'm just here to look pretty.
Item number 5A. Item number 5, workshop. 5A, review and discussion of proposed installation of a Gold Star Families Memorial Monument in Sugar Land Memorial Park. We've got Daphne, I think you're going to start us off, Daphne McKinney.
Yes, sir.
Strategic Planning and Philanthropy, Finland Dude, Parks Development Manager, and Alex Nard, Woody Williams, Foundation Director of Program.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm reading the note here so I can know how to operate the machinery. Shannon, you had me deer in headlights when the mayor called you out because I thought I had your seat. Oh, I was like, thank you for clarifying. I'm here this evening to talk to you about the Gold Star Families Memorial Monument. But before I get into the proposal, I wanted to introduce to you a few members that are in our audience here to support, both virtually and in person. We have Mr. Sunny Sharma, who you know well. This is the president of the Sugar Land Legacy Foundation. Next to Sunny, we have Jim Holker and his wife, Patty. On the virtual screen here, as the mayor mentioned, he's a co-presenter, Alex Nart. He represents the Woody Williams Foundation, and of course, can't speak highly enough of Finland Du, who is the creative visionary for the site design of this project, and she's going to have the opportunity to share that with you. Very excited about that. Oh, I didn't follow the instructions. There we go. Okay, let me just go back real quick to my introductory slide. So I do want to acknowledge that this isn't in that city plan for Sugar Land Memorial Park. However, it is supported unanimously by the Parks Board and the Sugar Land Legacy Foundation. Of course, we haven't started. We don't have funding. We haven't completed the project or anything. So you'll see those zeros there. So I'm going to just spin by this because I'm looking at several council members who have heard me say this very slide over and over again. So I'll try and go as quickly as possible. Sugar Land Memorial Park, named in 2006. A few years later, council appointed a task force to come up with ways in which we can honor our active service members and veterans at the park. They recommended these 4 sites that you see on the screen there. In 2010, the Sugar Land Legacy Foundation was established to provide quality of life projects for the city, specifically parks and facilities projects. And then the project started being completed after that. So the entry flags that you see when you first enter the park were completed. And then of course that landmark iconic tower that you see on the peninsula, Veterans Memorial Tower. Eagle Phase 1 was completed early last year. Essentially the statue with some surrounding landscaping was completed last year. And then I'm excited to say we're in the process of launching that Welcome Home project, which is one of my personal favorites. Here, this is just a summary of what I just mentioned to you, but the key question here is what's next for Sugar Land Memorial Park? And that's why I'm here before you today, is talk about a proposal from one of our very own Sugar Land residents about what could be next for Sugar Land Memorial Park. Into the project proposal here, this project was pitched by longtime Sugar Land resident Jim Holker. He was a co-founder of Impact a Hero, if you remember that. The fundraising would be spearheaded by Mr. Holker, and it would be 100% funded by donations. I wanted to talk just for a minute, and I know Alex may get into this, the Texas network of Gold Star Family Memorials. You can see, hopefully you can see on the map there are 9 completed monuments in the state of Texas and 7 are on the way. And these monuments really provide a space to honor our Gold Star families. They do Memorial Day ceremonies, Gold Star family specific ceremonies, as well as they can host some 5K runs and other cool events out at the park. So we would get the opportunity to partner with the Woody Williams Foundation on things like that. This is a beautiful picture of the monument itself. And at this point, I'm going to turn over to Alex. He's going to talk to you a bit about the features as well as the significance of the monument. And in your meeting materials, you may have seen the case for support. That really describes the significance there. But Alex will give you maybe 1 to 2 minute kind of elevator pitch on that. Alex, it's over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Daphne, and thank you very much for having me here tonight on your all's council meeting. We are honored on behalf of the Woody Williams Foundation, Woody himself, to be able to be another project that will currently be going in the great state of Texas. There's very few states that I feel like there's a competition going on who can establish the most monuments, but each monument is extremely beautiful and each community is very unique. What you see here on the slide is kind of the one with the gold star where it says Gold Star Families Memorial Monument, a tribute to Gold Star families and relatives who have sacrificed a loved one for our freedom. That is what you would look at if you were to say you're looking at the front of the monument. And so the picture down towards the bottom right with the pictures on it, those are etchings in which we have established a narrative with our monument to be able to honor these families. We started with homeland, family, patriot, and sacrifice. The fifth narrative of that is the cutout of the service member who is saluting. We started out as where you're from, your homeland, your community. You become a military family. That one loved one joins the military, wants to honor his country. He goes off and serves his country, becomes a patriot. He ultimately pays that sacrifice and doesn't make it home to his family. So we then now have the sacrifice panel. And then with this saluting service member, we have that as a symbol of those service members who have sacrificed for this great country and to be able to have their family stand there and be able to see their loved one within that. This is a roughly about 13 to 15 foot monument that stands about 7 feet tall with each unique opportunity for each project. This project will be able to have so the images that you're seeing here are not necessarily images that would be going on the Sugar Land Monument. So the local committee that is put together will have a team to be able to kind of choose which images they would like to see within those panels of those and to be able to fulfill those narratives. The top right corner, square looking with a post, that is the description marker, and that is what will then describe this monument. If you were standing behind there looking at it and taking it in, it will help kind of paint that narrative and paint that description of why the city of Sugar Land or Sugar Land in itself came together as a community to establish this monument here for Gold Star families.
Thank you, Alex. And I wanted to switch to the next slide, but I didn't want to interrupt him. He did describe the size of the monument. It is pretty substantial. So we're talking like 6 feet tall, but as tall as me. With the base, I believe it's around 7 feet. And then, like he said, 13 to 15 feet wide. So room size monument. I wanted to provide this slide as just some examples of how we can customize the site. It's very customizable. We can make it fit within our park. The one of particular note here is that top left, because that one is in Keller, Texas. It was recently installed, just another Texas monument. Now, without further ado, I'm happy to turn it over to Phong Lin. She is the creative genius behind this. She did this beautiful design for the site. I'm so excited for her to share it with you.
Thank you, Daphne. Good evening. I'm very excited to update you on the monument design on behalf of our Parks Department. As you have seen, this monument has already its fixed design. So our job is to integrate this monument well into Memorial Park. For that goal, our staff, mainly our director, Joe Chesser, and our subdirector, William Hatchett, and myself, we have compared several potential project locations and did a site analysis and design studies. So Memorial Park has a large area of natural open space. It has very dense woodlands and also the prairie landscape. So the park design was considered, the park design actually used very natural materials and earth tones. As you can see, the material palette includes the local stones, the gray concrete, the decomposed granite. We use browns for some highlights, such as the eagle sculpture. And also, I want to mention that there's the lettering into the concrete at the monument, the entry monument, and also the memorial tower. So this monument, you have seen in the previous slides, the monument has very large pieces of the black granite. So it is a very unique material among the other material palettes. So when we think about the site location, we try to locate it a little bit away from the existing memorial tower area. So you can see in the map on the right hand, it's going to, I can point it. So this is the University Boulevard and this is the Commonwealth Boulevard. So the site will be in this area and it's very next to the existing trail system. So it's very easy to get to. And also it's highly visible to both cars and pedestrians. In addition, it has the beautiful natural vegetation behind, so we have a very good backdrop of this monument. Since Alex just mentioned about the service member saluting, so we want to, position it in a way that this service member is able to salute to the existing flags, and also it's not going to be blocked by the existing live oak tree in the center. So those are some of the site analysis considerations. This site is also has very beautiful sunset views. We also want to, set it in a way that you can look through the opening and look at the sunset. So on the left is a solar path diagram. We look at it in order to position the angle of the monument. We also designed some seat walls at the plazas, and it's going to have the similar style of the flag walls at the roundabout. As I mentioned earlier, we also are going to sandblast some letters into the concrete when you walk into the plaza. The letters are love, strength, freedom, and peace. It's kind of a little bit actual details and sort of a light touch of memorial touch to this project. This is an example that we have the sandblasted lettering on the memorial tower, inside of the memorial tower. So it's going to be the same construction technique. This is the concept design rendering. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the major decomposed granite trail connecting from the lake, the Memorial Park Lake, and the dog park. So this is the marker with the description, as Alex just mentioned. You turn and you walk into this peaceful area. And then this is the monument you have seen earlier in the slides. And then certainly it's positioned in a way that you can the service member is saluting to the flags, and also you can see through the opening at the sunset. This is the seat wall I just mentioned earlier. This plaza has also ample space, so for people to sit, walk around, or stand in order to appreciate the monument from 360 degrees. These are the lettering I mentioned earlier. And then these are the existing woods as the backdrop of the monument. And in addition, we know there's no irrigation here, so we are going to try to find an opportunity to transplant some canopy trees here when opportunity comes up, so that it provides additional shade and also enhance the entry arrival experience for the plaza. We presented this concept, Daphne, and we presented the concept to Paxford a couple of months ago, and it was very well received. And we have really been enjoying collaboration with Jim with Legacy Foundation, with Woody Williams Foundation, and it's going to be a great addition to our very popular Sugar Land Memorial Park. With that, I'm going to turn the presentation back to Daphne. Thank you.
Thank you, Von Lin. And I do want to note here, the design is so thoughtful. I can't speak so highly, so thoughtful. What I didn't make a connection until now is this concrete design matches the Eagle that we're looking to, the Eagle Plaza that we're looking to install there. So if you imagine there's going to be some synergies with the way that the Eagle Plaza concrete is designed, the same way that this one is. So it's going to look like it's always been there, which I love. So let me get to the meat of why I'm here tonight. There is a memorandum of understanding between the parties in this room and, of course, the Woody Williams Foundation. City of Sugar Land, the Woody Williams Foundation, the Sugar Land Legacy Foundation, and a local committee, which would be chaired by Mr. Holker. I do want to note what it is and what it is not, because I thought that was important here, is that this is a preliminary document that simply provides a framework for planning and dividing responsibilities. This is not a capital donation agreement. That is something that will come much later in the process. This is just to get us started, to get the ball rolling. This is just a quick highlight summary of the responsibilities within the MOU. The City of Sugar Land would be responsible for running the site, providing a committee member for that local committee. So we would have a staff member on that local committee working with Mr. Holker. The city would be responsible for site design oversight and final approval of the design, and we would be responsible for ongoing maintenance. The Woody Williams Foundation would provide architectural plans. They would also have a role in approving the design since this is their trademark product. They would be providing the Legacy Foundation with financial reporting. They would be our liaison to the vendors like the Black Granite vendor, et cetera, and they would be dispersing the funds to that vendor, those vendors. The Gold Star Families Memorial Committee is that local planning committee chaired by Mr. Holker, one city rep, and we also want one Gold Star family member on that committee also. And that committee would be responsible for fundraising and monthly reporting. All of that financial reporting would go through the Legacy Foundation. They would review that. And of course, the Legacy Foundation would also accept those local donations. The project has been reviewed by several boards and committees, starting with the Legacy Foundation, followed by the City Council EDC, then through Parks, all with unanimous support. And then as we proceeded through this process, the MOU was reviewed and approved by the Legacy Foundation, and we are here tonight workshopping it with you. If all goes well this evening, we would anticipate putting that MOU on your next agenda for your approval. And then, of course, we would start fulfilling those responsibilities within the MOU and eventually come back to draft a capital asset or capital donation agreement where you would have the opportunity to review and approve, similar to Parks and the Legacy Foundation. The capital donation agreement will go through the same process as I just mentioned right here. So I do just have a note there. The timeline is dependent on the fundraising. I can't tell you how long this will take. It depends on how much time it takes for that fundraising to be completed. But with that said, I'm happy to be here with the support group here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Daphne. Councilmember, questions? Carol?
I just think this would be such a meaningful addition to the park. I absolutely love it. And Jim, thank you so much for bringing this to us. And the design is fabulous. And I recently went to the site and I think it's just the perfect place for it. And just, yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Anyone else?
Just quick, how much donations, do we have a dollar amount that we've kind of come up with? Or
well, I do want to throw out, Jim, I don't want to misspeak here, but I know, Fulman, you actually may have a better answer to that. The costs of these kinds of projects have been increasing and they're a little unreliable, but the Woody Williams Foundation provided a budget for one of their previous projects and it's quite a range. I believe it's around 150.
Yeah.
Is that 150,000?
Yeah, we did Pax did a little bit rough. Pax did a rough cost estimate just in-house in order to know the magnitude without knowing the cost of the exact cost of the monument. Just based on the other estimates they sent to us for the project at Kyler. I think it's around 110 to 150, somewhere along that range. But normally this is a conceptual level, so the project will go into further design, construction documentation. At that moment, we'll know exact cost estimate, and then that will be a more firm number. Without the monument, it's roughly between $30,000 to $40,000. Yeah.
You're saying without the monument, it's just the construction cost? Is that what you're saying for the?
Yes, that's a rough cost estimate based on the concept.
Okay. I got a cost on the monument the other day at about $45,000.
Oh.
And I think that's high because of import costs and container pricing right now. So it may go down by the time. I'm hoping it will go down a little bit.
Hope so.
But either way, we'll get it covered.
Yeah.
My question's maybe more design, because I love it. Are you gonna have lighting on it or something, lighting coming through the soldier? I mean, I love it. I think it's a beautiful idea.
Thank you. There is no existing electrical line nearby.
Okay.
If we could, but that will cost a lot more.
Right.
Yeah, so right now, there's no lighting for that. There's also the flags in the front, so we want still the flags, and the roundabout to the center is the main focal point in that area.
I just think it's amazing. Now, this is a facility question, maybe a mind question. This is such a beautiful monument. I mean, we put cameras on this stuff. I mean, somebody were to deface, this thing is so gorgeous. To be solid black this way for these families, I just love it. I didn't know how that all worked, but maybe you talk about it later. I don't want anything to happen to this thing. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, what William or Joe would know as far as, are there cameras out there now with the current monuments?
There is a camera in the parking lot right now. I don't think we would cover this area much.
Yeah, just being black, it just, I think it would, I'd love to protect this.
Problem with that graffiti in his car at all.
Well, let's hope that never becomes a problem. Sure. No, good, thank you.
Jim Elling, I'd like to thank you for bringing this forward. I mean, you've been not only a Sugar Land resident, but you've supported our military. I think you're ex-Marine. And, it means a lot to us, it means a lot to the community to have your support on something like this. I know you were really passionate about it. It took a little longer probably than you would have thought, but I think the final result is going to be something you're really proud of. Tailoring to the design, the fact that you've got a soldier at attention salute at the flags, that line of sight, I think is very important to maintain that line of sight to the American flag.
I would give that credit to Joe.
Yeah, I think that's very, very important. And I think that speaks to, the commitment that our military makes when they undertake some of these ventures that they make, especially nowadays. So.
And Mayor, just to follow up, the line of sight, and you've got two trees there. When they grow too big, that could become a problem with the line of sight to the flag. So just let's be cognizant of which kind of trees and how we space them out a little.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Beautiful though.
That's a great comment.
Good to go. Thank you, Jeffrey. Item number 5B, review and discussion of proposed amendments to Chapter 5, Article 13 of the Code of Ordinance regarding special events by adding a definition for amplification devices to Section 5501 and amending noise regulations in Section 5506. Jessica Hubble, our Destination Events Manager. Jessica, you're virtual tonight.
Yes, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm under the weather, so virtual tonight. But good evening, everybody. As you may recall, City Council adopted Ordinance Number 2065 governing special events in December of 2016. The purpose of this ordinance was to protect, preserve, and promote the safety and welfare of the general public, as well as ensure the city costs are recovered from special event producers. There is a permit required for all special events and destination venues that meet the requirements that are outlined in the ordinance, which ensure compliance with the minimum operational standards for events. Next slide, please. The edits that we are recommending are primarily geared to Section 5-506, the noise regulations. This is due to continued requests we have received for extended timeframes on holidays, specifically July 4th and New Year's Eve, as well as edits needed to allow Constellation Field to remain in compliance during their games and post-game activities. Next slide, please. Through Ordinance 2241, staff will be requesting council's consideration and approval of the following edits. First, we need to define amplification devices in the special events ordinance, which would include fireworks in the definition. For non-destination venues, an example of this would be New Territory or Greatwood. We're not requesting a change to the overall time frame. We are only requesting that when July 4th falls on a Sunday through Thursday, that the allowable time frame would be extended till 9:30 p.m., which is a 30-minute extension from what it is now. So if July 4th falls on a Friday, Saturday, the allowable time frame would remain the same as it is now, which is 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. For New Year's Eve, we're requesting a citywide extension for Saturday through Sunday that fireworks must conclude at 12:15 a.m. on January 1st. And just a reminder that a special events permit is required for anyone to host a fireworks show within the city of Sugar Land. So this entails the submission of a special events application, which is reviewed by the event review committee for ultimate approval. Next slide, please. Under Constellation Field in the baseball games and post-game activities section, these extensions are not only important for fireworks and post-game activities, but more so for the baseball games. Minor League Baseball cannot stop their games like the Atlantic League previously allowed. So because of this, we're requesting to extend both time frames by 30 minutes. Monday through Thursday would be 7 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., except on opening and closing day, we would request an additional 30 minutes to allow them to do their activities until 11 p.m. if needed. And Friday and Saturday would be 7 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. But if opening and closing day were to fall on a Friday, Saturday, they would have until 11:30 p.m. We would not request any. Next slide, please. So tonight's staff workshop, the recommended edits outlined in ordinance number 2241. Our next steps will be the first reading of the ordinance on September 7th, followed by the second reading on September 21st. Next slide. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. In addition, Tyler Stam, the general manager of the Sugar Land Skeeters, should be on this call as well. He's happy to address any questions that you may have pertaining to the operations at Constellation Field.
Welcome, Tyler. Questions, council members? Stuart.
Have we received, thank you for the presentation, have we received much in the way of complaints in these areas?
I reached out to 311 asking for any complaints we've received from Constellation Field, and they pulled back until January 1st of 2020. So that would have been the mini series that they did last year up until this year. And there were 3 complaints total. 1 was for lighting and 2 were for fireworks. Both were in the month of June. So to answer your question, there's been 2 related to fireworks that have came through 311 that we have addressed.
Thank you.
I have a question.
If a game goes overtime or extra innings, do we not get to have fireworks?
Tyler, you can answer.
Is that a question for me? Yeah. So most of the time we would call somebody like Jessica and say, hey, we might be running long. Because right now our fireworks are pretty much always on Friday. And we have that 10:30 cutoff right now. So there honestly has not been one time where we've, not been able to shoot fireworks. To my knowledge, we've been able to work with the fire marshal on site or get in touch with somebody at the city to allow us to shoot. I think the problem is right now, even this year, we're about 50 games into our season. Our average game is 3 hours and 17 minutes. So with a 7:05 game on average, we're ending at 10:22. And that's just an average game. This homestand, we're a 12-game homestand right now. We've had 4-hour games, and we don't want to be bad neighbors. I think that's the critical thing. So we have been up against that deadline, and I didn't mean to ramble here, but we have gone over that 10:30 marker before, but with permission.
And then I do want to reiterate, the extensions are being put in place to not so they can change their programming to go to those timeframes. It's more so when they run into those unforeseen circumstances like rain delays. that they have a little buffer to still continue the activities that they've paid for, that they've invested in, whether it's the post-game concert or post-game fireworks. Ideally, their programming would run smoothly and they would finish well before those timeframes, but it's just to allow a little buffer.
Council good?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Jessica, you good to go?
Okay, thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thanks, y'all.
Item number 6, City Council City Manager reports. 6A, Council Member reports. Jennifer, start with you.
Well, I've been just dealing with COVID. I learned over the weekend that Montgomery County has a regional infusion center for Regeneron, which is a very effective IV treatment for people who are trying to recover from COVID. We do not. Oak Bend Medical Center does in Rosenberg. Sugarland Memorial, Herman and Methodist, I believe, are doing the infusions too, but I think that's maybe something that we're going to be looking into, doing it more of these at our clinics, because the nurses are extremely overwhelmed and they need to focus on the more critical patients, and techs can do the IVs and they can get these infusions going. So that's pretty hopeful. So I've been kind of dealing with that in my family, of course, tested positive for COVID. So that's my report. That's what I've been doing.
I know Dr. Juliet Grace is looking at that kind of a facility up in Sugarland. Stuart.
Thank you, Mayor. This morning, I spoke on the topics of leadership and service at the Austin Parkway Elementary National Honor Society induction ceremony.
Wow.
William, can you top that?
Sir, I think I can, but I would like to see the video, and because I would like to see how large or small the audience was.
They're about this time.
That's it. I figured there's something. So because of you, Mayor, I had one of the greatest honors ever this past week. Chief Robbins, he's in here, and you asked me to stop by one of the coolest things. So we currently, those of you that don't know that are in the room, we have 4 new police officers. And to be there and see the family that essentially is handing their police officers off to our city with the trust they have in our city was one of the coolest honors I think I've ever had. And to speak on behalf of the citizens in Sugarland that I know love our law enforcement, I've got to tell you, that's still been impacting me for the last few days. Now, we've done a bunch of other things, and I have not spoken to very, very small young people lately. But I've got to tell you, those 4 officers just, they took my heart that day. It was beautiful to see them. One of their badges, his fiance put his badge on, and he is a very upright young man, and I think he's a veteran. And so she comes up, she's nervous, and she puts a badge on, and she couldn't get it straight up and down. And so it's sideways, his badge is sideways. And he said, sweetheart, it's okay. So he went back and stood in line with his badge turned. And what did his FTO do? His FTO got up from the audience, came up, turned his badge just right. And I'm like, man, I love this. So it was a great day, and I thank you for that opportunity.
Absolutely. Suzanne?
Well, I really can't top that, but but I did get to spend some time with our PD and firefighters. I got to be a victim, and I got to be carried by our firefighters.
Did you enjoy that?
Which I just really, 2 or 3 times at least. Our firefighters and our PD worked really hard this week to do a active shooter training, and they did a great job. So kudos to our city for doing that. Thank you, guys.
Michelle?
No report, Mayor.
Carol?
Well, the biggest community event attended was Bishop's 50th birthday.
There you go. I like that.
Michael, City Manager report.
No report, Mayor.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
There we go. 6:17.